California alone has more people living in it than the 21 least populous states combined.
Wow, that's quite a statistic.
Isn't it? Or try this one. Wyoming. It's our least populous state, right?
Way out there.
It actually has fewer residents than any of the 31 biggest U.S. cities.
Huh. So fewer people than, say, Boston or Denver.
Exactly. It really hammers home how unevenly spread out the U.S. population is.
It certainly does.
So, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving deep into U.S. population statistics.
And we're leaning on some solid sources here, mostly Wikipedia's list, which itself is based on U.S. Census Bureau data. Very reliable stuff.
Absolutely. And our goal today isn't just to throw numbers at you. We want to get into why these numbers matter. You know, what they mean for political representation, for one thing.
And also uncover some, frankly, fascinating trends, shifts that are really reshaping the country as we speak.
So let's start at the beginning. How do we even get these numbers?
Well, it all comes down to the U.S. Census Bureau. It's their job. Constitutionally mandated, actually.
Right, the decennial census.
Yeah.
Every 10 years.
Exactly. They aim to do an actual count of all residents.
And who exactly qualifies as a resident for the count? Is it just citizens?
No, it's broader than that. It's basically everyone residing in the U.S.
Okay.
So citizens, yes, but also non-citizen permanent residents and even non-citizen long-term visitors.
Interesting. What about Americans overseas, like military?
Good question. Yeah, federal employees serving abroad and their dependents, they get counted back in their home state.
Gotcha. So it's a massive undertaking, trying to count literally everyone.
It really is. And, accuracy is a huge goal, but it's not always perfect.
Okay, so the numbers aren't always spot on.
Well, they do test the count after it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they find statistically significant undercounts or overcounts.
Like mistakes?
Essentially, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The 2020 census, for example, found significant miscounts in 14 states.
14. Wow. How big are we talking?
The range was something like 1.5% up to 6.6%.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Hawaii is found to have an overcount of nearly 6.8%.
Overcounted. So they thought more people lived there than actually did.
That's right. And then on the flip side, Arkansas had an undercount of just over 5%.
Okay, so if they find these errors, do they fix the representation numbers? Like for Congress?
That's the really crucial point. No, they don't.
Wait, really?
Yeah. While those adjusted numbers might, affect funding formulas for government programs down the line,
Okay.
the numbers used for divvying up seats in Congress, the apportionment that's based on the original uncorrected count, and that number sticks for the whole decade.
So a state that was undercounted could be shortchanged on representation and maybe funding for 10 years.
That's the implication, yes. It raises some serious questions about, fairness and the impact of those initial figures.
Okay, so these numbers, even with potential flaws, have huge consequences for political power. Let's unpack that, starting with the House of Representatives.
Right. The House. Its size is fixed, locked at 435 seats.
Yeah.
That happened way back with the Reapportionment Act of 1929.
And every state gets at least one seat, no matter how small its population, correct?
Correct. One guaranteed seat. But after that...
It's all about population proportion. The more people, the more seats, up to that 435 total.
Exactly. But here's another really important detail. That calculation, the proportion, it's based only on the population of the 50 states.
Only the states. So who does that leave out?
It leaves out the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, Guam, American Samoa, the Northern Mariana Islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands.
So millions of people living in D.C. and the territories, their numbers don't count towards allocating those 435 House seats.
That's correct. They don't get voting representation in the House based on their population, which, again, raises that question of equitable representation.
That's a major point. And this concentration of power based on state populations also shapes how we elect the president, right, through the Electoral College.
Absolutely. The Electoral College votes are directly tied to congressional representation.
The formula is pretty simple, isn't it? It's the 2 senators every state gets.
Plus the number of representatives that state has in the House.
So bigger states, in terms of population, get more House seats and therefore more Electoral College votes.
Precisely. Which brings us back to D.C. It has a unique status here.
Yes, the 23rd Amendment.
Right. That amendment grants D.C. Electoral College votes as if it were a state. But there's a catch.
It can't have more votes than the least populous state.
Exactly. Currently, that's Wyoming.
Yeah.
So D.C. gets 3 electoral votes, the minimum any state has, 2 senators plus at least 1 representative.
Okay, so adding that up, 100 senators, 435 representatives.
Plus 3 for D.C. gives you the 538 total members of the Electoral College.
Got it. And just to be crystal clear, the territories we mentioned earlier...
Still excluded. People in Puerto Rico, Guam, and the other territories cannot vote in the general election for president.
But they can participate in primaries?
They can, yes. They can vote in the party nominating contests, the primaries and caucuses. So they have a say in who the candidates are, just not in the final election. It's a key distinction.
All right, let's pivot to the actual data now. What are the big takeaways from the recent census figures comparing, say, 2010 to 2020, and maybe looking at recent estimates?
Well, the concentration you mentioned earlier is stark. As of the 2020 census, just 9 states hold slightly more than half the entire U.S. population.
9 states, more than half the country.
Yep. And on the other end, the 25 least populous states combined. They hold less than 1/6 of the total population.
It really shows where the population centers are. What about growth? Where are people moving?
The shifts between 2010 and 2020 are really telling. We saw huge growth spurts in certain areas.
Like where?
Think west and south. Utah led the pack with over 18% growth.
18%? Wow.
Idaho was right behind, over 17%. Then you have Texas, North Dakota, Nevada, Colorado, Florida, Washington State. All saw growth around 15% or higher.
So a lot of Mountain West and Sunbelt states booming.
Definitely. But then you have the other side of the coin.
States losing population.
Or barely growing.
Yeah.
West Virginia actually lost population, down 3.2%. Mississippi saw a slight dip, Illinois too. Very low growth, essentially shrinking.
So if we zoom out from individual states to regions...
The pattern becomes even clearer. It's a significant shift towards the South and West.
Makes sense based on the state numbers.
Between 2010 and 2020, the South grew the fastest as a region, over 10%. The West was next, over 9%.
And the Northeast and Midwest?
Much slower. Around 4% for the Northeast, just over 3% for the Midwest. The real engines of growth were divisions like the Mountain West and the South Central areas.
Okay, so states booming, others declining. What about the territories, the island areas?
That's another really striking and concerning trend. Across the board, the permanently inhabited U.S. territories saw a significant population decline.
Decline across all of them.
As a group, yes. The total decline for the island areas was about 11.6% between 2010 and 2020.
Any specific examples that stand out?
Puerto Rico saw a decline of nearly 12%. And the U.S. Virgin Islands saw an even sharper drop, over 18%.
Wow, 18% loss. That's huge.
It really is. A very different story compared to the high-growth states.
So bringing this all together,
Yeah.
What does this mean for you listening right now? These shifts aren't just numbers on a page.
Absolutely not. They have real-world consequences. Think about economic influence, where companies invest, where jobs are created.
Right. And infrastructure needs. A state like Utah, booming like that, probably needs massive investment in roads, schools, housing.
Exactly. And they might be struggling with things like housing costs skyrocketing, strain on public services.
While a place like West Virginia, with a declining population, faces different challenges, maybe maintaining existing infrastructure with a smaller tax base, supporting an aging population.
Precisely. These demographic shifts change the economic landscape, the social fabric, the day-to-day realities in different parts of the country.
So it's quite a journey we've taken from how the count happens to how it translates to power to these really dramatic shifts across the map.
Yeah, digging into the population data really does open up these crucial insights into how the U.S. is changing.
And how that change affects the political landscape, the economy, just about everything. It's a dynamic story still unfolding.
It really is. And it leaves you with a big question to chew on, doesn't it?
What's that?
Well, given these ongoing, pretty significant population shifts, especially the different paths we see states taking versus the territories, how is this going to reshape national priorities, the balance of power in the coming decades? And maybe more importantly, what questions aren't we asking about the future, the specific needs of these very different regions?